After decades of grinding it out in the work world, I finally made it to retirement. I thought the rest of my life would be yoga classes, book clubs, a little red wine in the evenings, maybe some casual travel, simple pleasures all on my own terms. But then William, my dear husband, slapped a separation agreement on the table without so much as a heads up. Fine. You want to split? Then let's make it clean. I packed my bags, took my retirement savings and walked out the door. Big Sur, Yosemite. I snapped dozens of photos, posted them online, and the likes poured in so fast my phone nearly exploded. And him? He sat at home in his pajamas texting me, "So, who's gonna take care of my mom now? What a joke. You think we're separated but I'm still your free round-the-clock caregiver? Keep dreaming." He thought he'd mapped out every expense, that he could sleep easy now his little plan was in place. Well, what he doesn't know is, this agreement. It's just the beginning. The real show's only just getting started. My name is Melinda Morgan. I'm 65 years old and I just retired from one of the most respected public high schools in the state. For most of my life I spun like a top, work, family, raising a child, caring for in-laws. Any one of those could have drained a person dry, but I carried them all. When I was younger I truly believed that's just what women were supposed to do. Sacrifice themselves for everyone else. It wasn't a question. It was a duty. The year my father-in-law had a stroke, I was next in line for a department head promotion. I gave it up without blinking. To get my son into a better school district, I'd wake at 4:30 every morning. I'd hit to the market for the early bird discounts, rush home to cook breakfast, pack lunches, drive him to school and then hop on the way to get to work. Evenings? I came home to homework duty, mopping floors, laundry, sometimes not crawling into bed until midnight. When my in-laws' health declined, it was me who managed the doctor visits, medications, follow-ups, hospital stays. I held the whole thing together with duct tape and grit. And my husband William? He always had an excuse. I'm slammed at work. I'm just not good with caretaking. You've always been better at this kind of stuff. Better? To him that just meant it was my burden to bear. Sure, I had moments of resentment. But I swallowed it down and kept going. Because retirement, that was the light at the end of my tunnel. I thought once I made it there I could finally breathe. No more tiptoeing around principals, no more sprinting to catch buses, no more evenings chained to the stove. I had plans, beautiful, modest, just for me plans. Take that oil painting class I'd always dreamed of. Join the local senior hiking group and walk the coast, feel the spring breeze. Maybe grab a few of my old colleagues and take a spontaneous road trip somewhere warm. My retirement plan could be summed up in one word: freedom. That afternoon, after I filed the final paperwork, the sun poured through the blinds of the school office and warmed the retirement certificate in my hands. I felt like there was a tiny fireplace lit inside my chest. We went out for a farewell lunch, me and a few of the other teachers. "Melinda, you finally made it," someone laughed. "Now we just need to form a retired moms club and hit Route 66. Elise joked. I laughed along, heart full. I'd earned this. Every bit of it. Walking home I felt lighter than I had in years. I stepped through the front door, excited to share the news. I'm back. I'm officially retired. I called out. The living room was dark. William was sitting on the couch, motionless. His face was clouded like a storm waiting to break. The warmth in my chest iced over in an instant. "What's wrong?" I asked carefully. He didn't answer, just reached beneath the coffee table and pulled out a neat stack of printed papers. Bold black letters across the top. Asset and domestic separation agreement. I froze. For a second I thought I was reading it wrong. I flipped through the pages and my stomach dropped. Every detail was spelled out. Property division. Insurance account splits. Bank savings breakdowns. Even who would cover what percentage of the utility bills. And then came the kicker. A living arrangement schedule. He was suggesting we begin separate residences next week and start leading independent lives. My fingers trembled as I held the pages. I looked up at him. He was calm. Detached. Like he'd just finalized a business deal. "William, what is this?" My voice cracked. He cleared his throat, his tone flat as concrete. "Melinda, we're both retired now. I think it's time we be practical. Living apart, managing our own lives. It's better for both of us." Better for both of us? I almost laughed. Do you have any idea what I've given up for this family over the years? And now you hand me a separation agreement like it's a party favor and expect me to wish you well? I used to imagine our retirement years filled with sunshine, the smell of coffee in the morning and your voice beside me saying, let's go see the world together. Instead I got a spreadsheet. Bigger. Humiliation. It all rushed in wave after wave. I tried to replay our marriage hoping to find the moment the scales tipped. Your parents. My midnight medicine rounds, my sponge baths. Your brother's mess, I made the calls, found the money. Your promotions, I stayed back, held the fort. What I had wasn't a marriage. It was an endless contract of sacrifice. And now you want to talk about fairness? About independence? What a joke. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. William, I said, my voice steady, can you tell me why you suddenly want a separation? Is there something else going on? His eyes darted away. He stared down at the ashtray on the table and didn't look at me. No real reason, he muttered. It's just, times have changed. Everyone's talking about personal space and financial independence these days. I think it's time we caught up. He paused, then added, you see it all the time now. People retire and start living their own lives. Seems to work out well for a lot of folks. I think it'd be good for both of us. Good for both of us? The words jabbed at my chest like a needle. Oh really? I said, my voice tight. You want to explain how this is good for me? Does it make it easier for you to drop all your responsibilities? Or is it just more convenient to start dipping into the savings we worked for, without having to ask? A chill crept down my spine. William wasn't the type to make progressive decisions on a whim. The man ran on spreadsheets and fine print. He didn't leave the house without doing the math, so if he was pushing a separation agreement there was a reason. He had the bigger pension. Most of the major savings accounts were under his name. Now he wanted to split things up in the name of fairness? That kind of fairness was never meant for me. I kept pressing for a real answer, but all he gave me was the same looped script. Independence, clarity, space. Every word rolled off his tongue like he was negotiating a lease, not walking out on a decades-long marriage. This wasn't a conversation. It was a cold, calculated announcement. I looked at the man I'd known longer than half my life, and suddenly he felt like a stranger. One I wouldn't want to be alone in a room with. Whatever love I thought I had left for him, it was freezing over inch by inch. Anger, disappointment, a sadness so sharp it almost felt physical. I could feel it all crashing inside my chest. But I smiled. A cold, hollow smile. Fine, I said. If you want to split the numbers, let's do it right. I signed the separation agreement on the spot. Pressed my name onto the last page like I was stamping the end of a transaction. 3 decades of marriage undone by a few paragraphs and a signature. That same week I moved out of the house we'd shared for 30 years. Found a 1-bedroom apartment a few blocks from our old neighborhood. The night I left I wheeled my suitcase to the door. He just stood there silent. The second I pulled the door shut I heard him sigh, like he was relieved. So began our separation. And I meant every word of it. I wasn't coming back. The next morning I went to the store and bought myself a little fridge for the corner of my kitchen. Just enough space for my groceries. Just enough food for one. Back in that house I was always the one planning meals, balancing nutrition, making sure dinner was warm, tasty and ready on time. No. A bowl of spaghetti did the trick. Sometimes frozen chicken soup and toast. Easy. No fuss. And him? Word was, he tried cooking a few times. Cut his finger, nearly started a fire, turned the kitchen into a war zone. Then came the takeout. But that got old real fast. Not long after he started calling. This place is way too quiet. No warmth at all, he grumbled in a voicemail, rustling through takeout boxes in the background. I haven't had a hot meal in days. I was curled up on my new couch, letting the audio messages roll. I didn't even blink. Every day now he sends some new complaint. A text, a voice memo. Melinda, the house is a mess. You always kept it so spotless. The floor's sticky now. My stomach's all messed up from takeout. Didn't sleep a wink last night. There's something crawling behind the TV. I don't even want to look. If you were here, you'd have wiped it up in a second. I nearly laughed out loud. Did he really think a little whining would have me rushing back to scrub his floors and boil his soup? Sorry, William. That Melinda doesn't live here anymore. That's when it hit me. I wasn't always so busy because the work was endless. I was busy because I kept filling every gap, solving every problem, doing the emotional and physical labor no one asked for, but always expected. Now that I'd stepped out of that role, everything just slowed down. If things are tough, feel free to hire a cleaner, I texted back, my tone even like reading from a checklist. But you'll have to cover the cost yourself. There was a pause. Then his only reply, okay. I could picture him on the other side, fuming and frustrated, but helpless. And honestly, I didn't feel triumphant. What I felt was clarity. A kind of loneliness maybe, but clean. So, I doubt he ever imagined this version of me, standing across from him, not the patient, obedient wife, but a woman who could run her life with contracts and boundaries, not guilt and obligation. He probably misses the free meals, the spotless floors, the silent labor. Now that everything comes with a price tag, he's realizing just how convenient I used to be. Not long after my first retirement check hit my account. The moment I saw those numbers flash across the screen, something in me settled. For the first time in decades, I felt truly safe. That kind of security? I'd never known it, not in 30+ years of marriage. I'd earned that money. Every cent, 30-some years of lesson plans, late-night grading, grant proposals, and thankless school projects. That check was mine. Fully, completely, no strings attached. No one to report to. No hands reaching in. No household contributions to deduct. Looking at that balance, I found myself sitting up straighter, like my spine had finally remembered how to hold its own. Meanwhile, my girlfriend's group chat had turned into a retirement fireworks show. Tracy posted a beach pic in a bright blue swimsuit on the shores of Hawaii. Her body wasn't what it used to be, but her smile sparkled like the ocean behind her. Jill was live-streaming her 10-country tour through Europe, panning across cobblestone streets in France and candlelit wine bars in Italy. I scrolled through photo after photo, feeling that familiar twist of envy. Why should they get to live so freely, while I was stuck in a hollowed-out house, left behind by a man who calculated expenses with one hand and tossed me away with the other? Still dealing with his moods, his bills, his mother's back pain. After we separated? No, absolutely not. I wasn't going to spend this chapter carrying his leftover burdens. The old Melinda was always stepping aside for others. This time I was laying down a road for myself. I started researching routes, comparing prices, staying up late scrolling through travel websites. By morning I'd booked a 10-day national park tour. Yellowstone, Yosemite, then south to Joshua Tree. I didn't tell a soul. Not William. Not even my friends. I just hit confirm, packed my bag and left. Quicker than I'd ever acted on anything in my life. My suitcase was filled with lightweight hiking boots, quick-dry jackets, my sketchbook, sunglasses, and, just for once, a straw hat I bought purely because it looked cute in photos. That morning, right before I stepped out, I typed a message to myself on my phone. From now on, you live for yourself, not for anyone else. And on that road, I found the Melinda I hadn't seen in years. She sat by Yellowstone's steaming springs, sketching quietly. She hiked through Yosemite's morning mist, sweat on her back and joy on her face. She watched the sun sink behind Joshua Tree's jagged silhouettes, learning to work a tripod so she could snap a silhouette of herself, framed by desert and sky. I traded those dull, shapeless clothes for a denim jacket and a flowy printed dress I picked up in a little mountain town. I tied up my hair like I hadn't done since I was a girl. Every photo I took wasn't just a quick snap, it was proof. Proof I was still here, still worthy, still me. I posted a few pictures online along with captions that read, "Life's second half starts on the open road. Retirement isn't the end, it's the launch pad." I didn't walk away from anyone. I finally returned to myself. The comments exploded. "Melinda, you look amazing. Who even are you? Total glow up. I'm booking my California trip right now." As I scrolled through the replies, I felt a satisfaction deeper than anything I'd felt in years. Not because someone else finally saw me, but because I finally saw me. William, of course, texted. "No one's cleaning the house. It's dusty everywhere. My stomach's been off from all this takeout. My mom called, said her back's been acting up. She misses you." Emotional bait. I rolled my eyes and tapped out replies, calm and clinical. "Hire a cleaner. You've got a pension, don't cheap out now. Stomach issues? Learn to cook or see a doctor. Your mom's back? Call Jolie. She lives closer. It's her turn." Then I tapped do not disturb on his message thread. While he sat in that cold, silent house crunching numbers, I was halfway across the country, soaking up sun on a red rock ledge. He could try guilt, he could play the mother card, he could cry into his spreadsheets. But that emotional debt had already been cleared. I knew this wasn't the end of it. He'd be back with more attempts. But that was his struggle now, not my responsibility. Right then, the light filtered through soft clouds and landed warm on my face. Around me, only the hush of wind and the soft hop of a squirrel nearby. I closed my eyes and whispered to myself, "Melinda, welcome back." 10 days later, I wheeled my suitcase back into my little apartment. The place looked exactly as I'd left it. Clean, quiet, sun pouring through the curtains in warm golden stripes across the floor. It smelled like lavender and lemon cleaner, not must and leftover takeout. It was mine. All mine. I'd barely pushed the suitcase against the wall and was heading into the kitchen to make myself a cup of tea when the doorbell rang. I opened it and there he was. William. Wrinkled coat. Hair a mess. Face even grayer than the day I left. No flowers. No smile. Not even a fake welcome home. He looked like a man who'd shown up with a bone to pick. "You're finally back," he said, sighing like I'd kept him waiting too long. "Since you left, there's been nobody to look after my mother." I didn't step aside. Just leaned against the doorframe, one brow arched. "Didn't you say we were living separately now? Each handling our own lives? Funny how the minute I land, you show up looking to restart the free services." He ignored the jab, voice dropping to a low, deliberate rasp, like he was trying to sound fragile. "She's been getting worse. Keeps asking where you went. I'm running myself ragged, Melinda. Her back's been acting up again and she barely eats. It's getting too hard to manage alone." I didn't respond. I walked back into the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water and sat down on the sofa, calm, unbothered. He was still standing outside, not invited in. "You always knew how to handle her," he called from the doorway, trying again. "You'd make the soup she liked, remind her to take her meds. She trusted you." I took a sip of water, set the glass down and let my voice go cold. "William, you initiated this separation, remember? You're the one who wanted a clean split. I didn't leave you. You asked me to leave with terms." I looked him square in the eye. "And as for your mother? I sympathize truly. But let's be clear, she's your mother, not mine." A flicker of discomfort passed over his face. He pressed his lips together, hesitating. Then mumbled, "But you used to care. You were the only one she really listened to." I cut him off. That was then. Back when I still believed this marriage meant something. I sat up straighter, my eyes locked on his. "Let me remind you, right now we are under the contract to be legally separated. That means your mother's care and responsibility fall to you and your sister, Jolie. If you need help, hire a caregiver. And the bill? That's yours to settle. Don't expect me to show up like the housekeeper who never clocked out. If you're genuinely worried about her," I added, "take her to the doctor. Don't stand here staging some the daughter-in-law left and the world fell apart drama. This isn't a movie, William. You don't get to yell, 'Cut,' when things get inconvenient." He flushed, pale to red to pale again. His hands twitched at his sides, fingers kneading the seams of his pants. "She's been saying her chest feels tight lately," he muttered. "She's trembling. I'm seriously worried." I let out a dry laugh. "Worried now, are you? Then maybe you should have stepped up before I left. Not wait around hoping I'd come back just in time to fix it for you." After a long pause, he finally slumped into the chair across from me, his whole body deflating like a balloon losing air. His voice softened. "Melinda, that's not what I meant. We're still legally married, aren't we? After all these years, everything we've been through, if something happens to my mom, are you really okay walking away from it all?" And there was the family guilt card. I felt it coming before he played it and it still made me clench my jaw. On the outside I stayed perfectly still. "I'm not walking away from anything," I said coolly. "Yes, we have a duty to care for our elders. That's never been in question." I paused, letting the silence land. "But how we care, who's involved and who pays for what, that all needs to be spelled out." My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. It was sharp enough just like that. I set my glass down slowly and leaned forward, locking eyes with him. "You wanted fairness, didn't you?" I said, voice steady. "Then let's handle this fairly too. Your mother's care is primarily your responsibility, and Jolie's. I'm willing to contribute symbolically, but the main arrangements? That's on you too." I raised 3 fingers. My words came out clean, measured and sharp as glass. 1. Hire in-home care. You and Jolie cover the cost. I'll pitch in a token amount, say 10%. But choosing the caregiver, coordinating schedules and managing everything? That's all on you. 2. Split the duties. Rotate care. Weekly or divide the day, 1 in the morning, 1 at night. If you're truly swamped and can't cook or do laundry, I might prepare an extra meal and drop it off once in a while. But that's the extent of it. Don't ask for more. 3. Look into a senior living facility. A decent one with proper care. You and your sister handle the expenses. I'll visit from time to time, sure. But the daily grind? That's not mine to carry anymore. My tone never rose. I didn't need to shout. Every sentence landed like a nail into his pride. Take your pick, William, I finished. But if you think I'm going back to being the unpaid round-the-clock caregiver, circling your mother like a damn satellite, those days are over. They say talking about money ruins feelings. No, blurring money and feelings is what really wrecks everything. You want fairness? Then let's settle the balance sheet. William's face changed instantly. Hire a caregiver. That's 5-6 grand a month. The thought of splitting that bill with Jolie probably made his stomach churn. Take turns caring for her? Jolie always claims her teenage son's applying to colleges. Her job's crazy, her schedule impossible. She's been too busy for a decade. Care home. His mother never outright refused, but any time it came up, her face went cold. She'd sulk for days. And their neighbors? Oh, they definitely have something to say about poor William dumping his mother in a facility. He sat there, jaw clenched, fingers digging into the armrest of the chair, clearly running numbers in his head. I didn't interrupt. Just watched. Patient, detached. Almost amused. He thought silence would rattle me. He thought if he waited long enough, guilt would bubble up like it always did. Not anymore. And maybe he sensed that too, because the next day William actually went to talk to Jolie. He called it a family conversation. What it really was. A team-up. A little pressure campaign. See if they could tag-team me back into the role of super daughter-in-law. But what he didn't realize. That playbook doesn't work anymore. That chapter's closed. And I've already torn out the pages. The moment Jolie heard she'd have to chip in both money and effort, she slipped straight into melancholy mode. Over the phone her sigh came first, long, heavy, theatrical. Then her voice, tired and tinged with just the right amount of self-pity. William, you know I'm not trying to dodge responsibility. But I really don't have the time. Mark's been under so much pressure at work, he's pulling overtime almost every night. And with the kids, one's prepping for high school, the other's always getting sick. I've got my hands full. And besides, she continued, shifting gears smoothly, I've got work travel coming up, 2 trips this month alone. You guys live closer and Mom's been with you for years now. Melinda's already so used to taking care of her. Then came the pivot. The subtle handoff. Wrapped in flattery, of course. Honestly, Melinda just retired, didn't she? Her schedule's probably a lot more flexible now. She's always been so thoughtful with Mom. Anyone else, Mom wouldn't even adjust. How about this? I'll send a few hundred each month as a little pocket money for Mom. Just a small gesture from me. But as for the day-to-day, well, I think Melinda's the best person to keep handling it. She's a woman after all. More detail-oriented. Mom feels more at ease with her. Unbelievable. Tossing the burden over with such grace, dressing it up in compliments like a well-wrapped gift. All she really said was, "Here, you take care of everything again." William, of course, left out her whole sob story when he came back to me. Just looked at me with that familiar, helpless expression and said, "Jolie mentioned Mom's more comfortable with you. Hopes you can keep helping out." Like that made it all reasonable. Like it wasn't just him talking now, she said it too, so it must be fair. I let out a sharp breath of disbelief, more laugh than anything. Well, isn't that sweet? You two really are siblings, passing the buck like a well-rehearsed routine. I shot him a look so cold it could have frosted the windows. And tell me, what exactly gives your sister the right to hope anything from me? My voice was low but laced with steel. When we got married, did she chip in for the wedding? Was she there when we scraped together the down payment for this place? Who fronted the cash when she needed help buying that SUV, or when her kids enrolled in private school? Was that ever repaid? Your mother's been hospitalized how many times? And how often did Jolie show up? 10 minutes at most, just long enough for a photo to post in the family group chat. And somehow she always left with a bag of our groceries. I used to care for your mom because I cared about you. But now, you and Jolie want to talk fairness? Fine. Let's run the full tab. My voice rose, slowly, firmly, but each word was as crisp and sharp as broken glass. Let me be perfectly clear, William. Jolie is your sister. Not mine. Caring for your mother is a legal responsibility between you two, not some lingering obligation tied to my emotions. I'm not your family's human sticky note, slapped on when something needs doing, peeled off the moment I'm not convenient. You call it filial piety, I said, eyes narrowing, but funny how that only seems to show up when someone else is doing the work. William's face flushed, then paled. His mouth opened slightly, then shut again. His gaze drifted to the floor. He wasn't used to this version of me, composed, firm, utterly done with keeping the peace. The old me used to worry about sparing his feelings. I used to let Jolie's comments slide, her absences pass, her excuses stand. But he was the one who tore the mask off first. So now he could live with what was underneath. Soft pleas didn't work. Hard talk didn't either. William must have finally realized he was getting nowhere with me. When the sibling tag team failed, it didn't take long for the final card to be played. His mother, Rose, showed up herself. She didn't live far from my new apartment. I hadn't planned on visiting, but that day I happened to be in the neighborhood. Out of old habit, or maybe a trace of sentimentality, I picked up some fruit and decided to stop by. She was sitting on the couch, rubbing her back and sighing dramatically as I walked in. Oh, this old body of mine just gets worse by the day. My legs hurt, my back aches, I can't even sleep properly anymore. Her tone was frail and pitiful, but her eyes kept flicking up at me, scanning my face for a reaction. I knew that look. I'd seen it 1,000 times before. I smiled politely and set the fruit on the coffee table. Rose, if you're not feeling well, you should let William know. He's your son. Jolie's nearby too. I'm sure they'll take care of everything. She blinked, clearly not expecting me to deflect so cleanly. Then, without missing a beat, she shifted gears. Melinda, it's not just about not feeling well. I miss your chicken soup. The store-bought stuff just isn't the same. And my shoulder. Remember how you used to rub it for me? That always helped so much. I kept my smile and shook my head. Rose, I just got back from traveling. I'm still getting my footing. I don't really have the energy right now. Maybe William can make some soup for you? Or ask Jolie, she's younger, probably has stronger hands than I do. Her expression darkened. The sweetness vanished. You're not the same, Melinda, she snapped. You didn't used to be like this. Now that you're retired, you just don't want to be bothered. Is that it? Am I just an inconvenience to you now? My smile didn't fade, but my words lost any warmth. Rose, don't take it personally. I came today out of respect, for the years we spent as family. But I don't live with William anymore. We're separated now. Life is life. Responsibilities are responsibilities. I paused, made sure she heard every word. Your care, respectfully, is William and Jolie's responsibility. I'm not part of your household anymore. I won't be coming back to play the role of full-time caregiver. She opened her mouth to reply but couldn't get a word out. I knew then she got it. A few days passed in peace. On my end at least. Over at Williams? It was full-blown chaos. With me out of the picture and Jolie dodging every attempt to contribute, Rose was furious. She called daily to complain about the food, the laundry, the medication mix-ups. William tried handling things himself, but every attempt was a disaster. Wrong dosages, scorched meals, and a wool sweater shrunk to doll size in the wash. Rose was livid. Jolie was overwhelmed by the constant phone calls. The two of them started blaming each other. And William? He finally had to admit what he never expected. Melinda wasn't coming back to clean up his mess. He looked worse by the day. Hollow. Sitting on the couch chain-smoking, barely blinking, barely speaking. And then on a quiet Saturday he showed up at my door. In his hands he held a mug of tea like it was a peace offering. The arrogance he once wore like armor? Gone. Melinda, he started, his voice unsteady. I'll admit when I brought up separation, I didn't really think it through. He sat on the edge of the sofa wringing his hands. Things at home, it's too much. Mom's temper, her health. I'm barely holding it together. I said nothing. He pressed on. What I wanted to ask was, Is there any chance we could be a little more flexible about this separation? Maybe you could help out more? I mean, not for free, I could pay you. Like a monthly compensation. That was it. I laughed. Short, sharp, disbelieving. Compensation. I said, my tone like ice. What is this? Are you hiring a temp? Or offering me some kind of retirement welfare? The laugh vanished. My smile with it. You're the one who wanted the separation, William. You wrote the rules. You split the accounts. You called the shots. And now that it's hard, you want to bend the rules? Now you want flexibility? I stood, looked him dead in the eye and said, you want me to reconsider? Fine. There are two options. It will be either we scrap the separation agreement. We move back in together, but I'm the one to manage the money. We share every responsibility, every chore. Including caring for your mother. Together. No more dumping it all on me. And you owe me a sincere apology for everything. Your selfishness, your avoidance, your complete lack of respect. Or the other choice, we keep things exactly as they are. You and Jolie figure out your mother's care. Hire help, take turns, put her in a senior community, I don't care. But it's on you. Don't come knocking again. His face drained of color. His mouth moved but no sound came out. Option 1 meant undoing everything, his plans, his freedom, the illusion of control. Option 2 meant facing the reality that he was in way over his head. He looked like a fish out of water, gasping, eyes wild with panic. Me. I didn't mock him. I didn't comfort him. I just watched quietly and thought to myself, this isn't revenge. This is the road he chose. That afternoon, I was on my way home from the library and decided to swing by the old house to grab a few documents I'd left in the study. The front door was unlocked. I knocked twice, no answer. So I let myself in. I just reached the study when I froze. The door was slightly ajar. William sat at the desk, back to the door, one hand on his phone, the other drumming anxiously against the tabletop. His shoulders were hunched, his whole body coiled tight like a wound-up spring. I hadn't planned to eavesdrop, but his phone screen faced the door, and a few words flashed by in large bold text. Loan. Due date. Credit alert. My brow lifted. He turned suddenly, caught sight of me and flinched like a thief caught in the act. The screen went black as he stuffed the phone into his pocket. Oh, you're back. His voice cracked, eyes darting away. I told you I'd be stopping by, I said calmly, eyes never leaving his face. And just like that, something clicked. That reaction wasn't just awkward, it was wrong. My mind spun back to all the signs I'd brushed off. How insistent he'd been on the separation, how eager to divide up the finances, how quickly he'd pushed me out of the shared picture. It hit me like cold water. William was hiding something. Something big. Was he in debt? Had he poured money into something reckless? A dark, ugly suspicion began forming in the back of my mind. Had he orchestrated the separation to shield his finances, to get me off the books so he could funnel cash into some hole he didn't want me to see? And if there was a hole, chances were high it had a familiar name. Brian. His brother. William had never had the nerve for stocks. No brain for investing. The only crisis that could tie his guts in knots like this was the kind that had family shame written all over it. I didn't confront him. I acted like I hadn't seen a thing. Just picked up my folders and left. But from that moment on, I started paying attention. Even though we were technically living apart, I still stopped by the old house now and then, to pick up mail, sort out paperwork, tie up loose ends. And each time I watched, he was taking more phone calls. Always slipping into the balcony, locking himself in the study. And more tellingly, he was talking to Brian. A lot more than usual. Just the thought of that man made my eyes roll. Brian, who'd coasted through life like a leaf in a sewer. No job, no plan, no shame. He'd always leaned on William, sometimes flat out manipulating him with stories about their mother's health, just to score some cash. That night, I came by to grab a document I needed. As I reached the end of the hallway, I heard William's voice behind the closed door of the study, low and tight with panic. I told you I don't have it. That hole's too big, I'm already stretched thin. Stop pushing me, I'm working on it. This can't get back to her. If she finds out, it's over. Her. He could only mean me. I stood there in the hallway, my heart thudding in my chest, the truth settling over me like ash. He was hiding something. And not just a small mistake or a moment of bad judgment. This was something serious. Serious enough to lie about. Serious enough to stage an entire fake, amicable separation to cover up. That whole performance, independence, fairness, clean break, wasn't about boundaries. It was about cutting me out, isolating the finances so he could move money without oversight. To save Brian. I laughed to myself quietly, bitterly. 30+ years of marriage, and here I was, living inside a spy thriller. And apparently I was the security risk. Well, fine. If he wanted to act, I could play my part too. The only difference? This time I had the script. I didn't argue. I didn't throw accusations. I had to work. I reached out to friends with legal experience, asked careful questions about shared assets, liabilities, power of attorney, account access. I reviewed old account statements, retraced financial threads. I went to the banks in person to ask about any jointly held accounts or credit activity under my name. I wasn't going to scream in the dark. I was going to shine a light. While I dug for the truth, life threw in another curveball. Rose started having episodes. Nothing major, just enough to send William spiraling. Chest tightness. Heart palpitations at night. Things vague enough to escape a diagnosis, but unsettling enough to demand attention. The doctor's advice was simple. Minimize stress. Keep her calm. Be attentive. Which, of course, sent William into a tailspin. Jolie was already out of the picture. Hands washed, phone off, probably sipping wine somewhere with zero guilt. So William was on his own. Hospital runs. Tests. Middle of the night calls. His life turned into a spinning plate act with no end in sight. And right on cue he started texting me again. Melinda, do you have a moment? Just for today. Can you help me out just this once? Mom isn't doing well. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. I didn't respond. Because right now I wasn't in the mood to play Mother Teresa. I had work to do. I was going to unearth every penny, every file, every lie buried under his so-called clean break. Because when the final curtain falls on this little drama, he wrote, I'm not walking out a victim. I'm walking out with receipts. In the end, William finally cracked. That afternoon he showed up at my door again. Eyes sunken, hair a mess, looking like he hadn't slept in days. The moment he stepped inside, he collapsed into the chair like his whole body had given up. Melinda. His voice was raspy, barely above a whisper. I really can't do this anymore. His eyes were bloodshot, face drawn with exhaustion. He looked like a man circling the drain. Mom's been getting worse, he muttered. She can't breathe right at night. The doctor says it's mostly emotional. Says the care isn't adequate. I'm trying, but... He trailed off, then took a shaky breath, his voice dipping into a tone meant to sound remorseful. I know the separation agreement was selfish. It wasn't fair to you. I didn't say a word. I waited. He glanced at me, then switched tactics, tone softer, more desperate. Please, Melinda. I'm begging you. Just help me stabilize things with Mom for now. Once she's better, I'll do whatever you say. We'll talk about everything then. He didn't mention compensation, or a monthly allowance this time. No, now it was all repentance and emotional appeals. He even dangled a half-confession. I know there were things I didn't tell you. It wasn't that I meant to lie. Things got out of hand. He left the rest hanging like I'd be generous enough to help him fill in the blanks. But I heard him loud and clear. This wasn't a confession. This was damage control. He knew I was onto something, and now he was hiding behind his mother to buy himself more time. I looked at him, really looked. The sunken eyes, the trembling hands, the pleading tone. And beneath it all, the same old manipulation. You make it sound so easy, I said, setting down my tea. My voice was dry and sharp. You want help? Fine. But my price hasn't changed. It's called honesty. I slowed my words, made sure everyone hit him like a stone dropped in water. If you actually want to fix this, then tear up the separation agreement. Open the books. Lay everything out on the table. Not just your mother's care, but the money you've been hiding, the loans, the guarantees, and whatever mess Brian's dragging you into. He jolted like he'd been electrocuted. His eyes flicked toward the floor, panic flashing across his face. What? Financial mess? I don't know what you're talking about, he stammered, the words spilling like he was trying to plug a leaking pipe with paper towels. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, watching him scramble. You really think saying I'm sorry, and blinking real hard is going to make me come running back to clean up your mess? I shook my head and let out a dry laugh. Don't insult me, William. That separation agreement didn't push me out of your life. It gave me the perfect vantage point to see exactly what you're doing. You say your mom's health is failing? I believe it. But the problem isn't your mother. It's you. You're using her illness as a shield. As a smokescreen for whatever hole you've dug yourself into. I stood up, my voice clearer than it had ever been. Still, I give you the choices. Pick one. One, you come clean. Everything. Finances, loans, guarantees. Full disclosure. And you step up. You take full responsibility for your mother, for your mistakes, for all of it. No more games. Or two, you keep pretending. Keep playing the independence card. Keep living that separate lives fantasy. But your mother's care? From now on, that's your job. Don't bring it to my doorstep again. He sat frozen, pale as a ghost, lips parting like he might speak, but nothing came out. His fingers twitched at the seams of his pants, digging in as if he could anchor himself to something solid. That's when I knew he was scared. Really scared. And not just of me, but of the truth I was now circling with a spotlight. I didn't give him time to respond. I walked to the door, opened it, and looked back over my shoulder. If you want to keep acting, I said quietly, then don't blame me when the curtains come down and I'm the one holding the script. Then I shut the door behind me. Hard. That night I found it. I was combing through old emails from the joint account William and I once shared. And there it was. A loan authorization request from 2 months ago. Submitted by William. My name listed under guarantor. Mrs. Melinda Morgan. He'd used my name. My identity. Without my knowledge. He really went that far. I stared at the numbers on the screen and let out a cold, bitter laugh. This wasn't just deception anymore. This was theft. And this was where my counterattack would begin. Ever since that night, I stopped making excuses for him. The illusion shattered. William hadn't simply kept things from me, he had crossed a line. He had used my identity without consent to co-sign a loan. And not just any loan. $200,000 taken out to cover for the one person who'd been bleeding him dry for decades. His brother, Brian. The next morning, I called Susie, an old college friend of mine who now did part-time work in legal aid after retiring from her family law firm. We met for brunch at a quiet little cafe and I came armed with printouts and screenshots. I laid everything out the moment we sat down. She read silently, flipping through each page. Her frown deepened. By the end, she set the last sheet down and looked at me stunned. Melinda, this is serious. She tapped the document with the edge of her nail. This guarantor authorization, it was filed before the separation, yes. But the moment you prove you didn't consent? Doesn't matter if it was during the marriage. This is financial fraud. Plain and simple. I nodded. I wasn't even home the day he submitted the application. The IP address traces back to his office. And the signature? Not even close. I can tell just by looking at the handwriting. It's not mine. Susie leaned in, her voice firm. Good. That means you've got leverage. Now here's what you do. She raised 2 fingers. 1. Hire a professional attorney. Someone with experience in financial misconduct and family law. 2. Immediately freeze any joint or transitional assets still connected to him. Especially accounts that are still in that legal gray zone from the separation. Then she paused. And said something I'll never forget. Remember, this isn't revenge. This is protection. That line hit me like a switch flipped inside. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt clear. That afternoon I made the call. The lawyer I hired was a woman in her mid-50s, smart, efficient, and straight to the point. She had the energy of someone who'd fought 100 wars like mine. And won most of them. We'll take your case, she said after reviewing the files. Our first step is to send him a formal legal notice. He'll be required to disclose all personal and joint financial records, with a response deadline. If he refuses, she continued, we escalate. We'll petition the court for an emergency discovery order. If he's found to have willfully concealed financial activity or falsified identity usage, we'll freeze his accounts. Retroactively. We'll pursue damages. Then she looked up and asked, are you ready to take this to the next stage? Because this is no longer just a marital dispute. I smiled. For the first time in ages, I felt the burn in my chest finally finding a release. Ready? I said steady and calm. I've been ready for a long, long time. Over the next few weeks I went all in. I combed through old bank statements, hunted down dusty ledgers, requested years of transaction records. Every dollar William had funneled to Brian, I traced it. Some transfers were labeled vaguely like repaying a favor, but the paper trail showed otherwise. Covert credit card bailouts, quiet cash withdrawals, and transfers that completely bypassed the household books. Some didn't even touch a tax record. Just off-the-books handouts masked as helping family. My rule was simple. Every penny had to match. No more gray zones. No more fuzzy math. At first, William still tried to bluff his way through it. Tried to sit down, use that same old reasonable man tone. Melinda, we've been married for decades. Do we really need to burn it all down like this? I stared him down, cold and sharp. No, William. You already did. I'm just protecting what's left. A few days later, the legal notice hit his mailbox. He called, voice cracked, frantic, one step from a meltdown. You're really taking me to court. What the hell is wrong with you? I hung up without saying a word. He kept calling. I never picked up again. Next step. See you in court. That morning, the courthouse was washed in cold, artificial light. The kind that made your breath hitch and your spine stiffen. I stood tall across the aisle facing him. William sat slumped beside his lawyer, looking like a man halfway to unraveling. His hair was noticeably thinner. His face unshaven. That gray jacket he wore looked like it hadn't left his body in a week. Wrinkled, grimy, and sagging around the shoulders like it had given up on holding him together. Before we entered the courtroom, my attorney leaned in, her voice low and calm. Don't look at his face. Don't listen to his lines. Just focus on the evidence. The judge entered. The hearing began. We laid everything out piece by piece. The digital guarantor form with IP logs traced back to William's office computer. Handwriting analysis proving the signature wasn't mine. A recorded call to the bank where Jolie impersonated me, authorizing the loan. A loan usage report showing the money bypassed our household entirely and landed squarely in Brian's bank account. Your Honor, my lawyer said, rising to speak, calm but unwavering. This is not a domestic misunderstanding. This is financial fraud committed by a spouse leveraging marital access to personal identity and assets, without consent. William's attorney tried to spin it. She did benefit from the family assets. Surely, this minor misstep can be understood in the broader context of their long marriage. But my lawyer shot that down with a single sentence. Consent is not retroactive, and benefit means nothing when you're lied to. Across the room, William went ghost white. He looked at me, mouth opening then closing. He wanted to speak. Maybe to apologize. Maybe to beg. But I didn't flinch. I didn't frown. I just looked back at him, calm, composed, done. This is the price you pay for treating someone like a tool. And I wasn't that tool anymore. 3 weeks later, the ruling came down. William lost. The court found him guilty of unauthorized use of spousal identity for financial gain, fraud committed within the marriage. I was cleared of all liability for the $200,000 loan. The judge also ordered a freeze on all financial activity between William and Brian, pending further investigation into possible collusion or misrepresentation. Most importantly, I was granted full financial independence. Every shared account, frozen, reviewed, dissolved. Final. Clean. He didn't just lose a court case. He lost his free labor, his silent partner, the woman who used to cover for him while he played responsible husband on the outside. And Brian? He received his own court summons days later. Loan default. Collateral review. Joint liability. Just like that, the two brothers, once the would-be masterminds of a clean break, became co-defendants in a fraud inquiry. Their little plan had backfired into a legal firestorm. Word spread fast in our small town. At the grocery store, I started getting those looks. That mix of disbelief and admiration. The kind of look people give a woman they never expected to stand up, straighten her back, and win. Some neighbors hesitated before saying anything. Others just stared. I smiled, polite as ever. It wasn't that I'd risen. It's just that for the first time they saw I'd stopped lowering my head. A few months later, I finally moved out of that suffocating old neighborhood and into a bright, modern apartment on the west side of town. Big balcony. Open kitchen. Every inch of it decorated exactly how I wanted. Life, I've realized, is a bit like a long unchecked ledger. On the surface it looks balanced, but underneath the numbers haven't added up for years. What you thought was we, somewhere along the way, got quietly rewritten by the other party into me. My story with William, this long, tangled, painful story, was finally over. The court ruled. He conceded. The money was sorted. The blame and the burden were officially handed back to him and his brother. And because of the fraud and deception he committed during our separation, the judge gave me full grounds to file for divorce immediately. I didn't hesitate. When the numbers were settled, so was my direction. But honestly, what gave me the most peace wasn't winning the case. It wasn't the cleared debt or the restored name. It was knowing I no longer had to smooth things over for everyone else. No longer had to be the woman who knew everything, managed everything, forgave everything. That feeling, it was like peeling off a soaking wet coat you've worn for too long. The cold hits you, yes, but so does the air. You can finally breathe. Friends ask me if I ever regret it. Walking away after 30-something years feels too final. Too harsh. I always smile and say the same thing. No regrets. Not one. I've learned to care for myself. I finally put myself first. You know what I found? The hardest thing at this age isn't being alone. It's realizing someone didn't change. They were always that person. You were just too busy, too tired, too loyal to see it. Me. I was just too worn out to do the math. But I'm not afraid of starting over anymore. Because I know now, it's not starting over. It's moving forward. With experience. With clarity. With courage. I started traveling again. Took a painting class. I buy myself flowers. I eat alone. I go to the movies without checking if someone needs me. I no longer wait on messages that never come. Every week I record a podcast at the community library. It's called Life After Separation. Sometimes we talk about legal steps. Sometimes emotional healing. And sometimes I just sit and read a good book quietly. In one episode one said, he used to say marriage was about mutual understanding. But what he really meant was, you adapt to me. I didn't fight back because I agreed. I didn't fight back because I was exhausted. Now I understand, independence isn't something someone gives you. It's what you reclaim when you realize you don't need them to be whole. People write to me, Melinda, I cried listening to your story. You're telling my story. Others ask, don't you ever feel empty being alone? Empty? Not at all. I've simply finally made space for myself. My apartment isn't big, but it's quiet. The sun hits the balcony in the morning. The fridge doesn't have to feed a whole family, just holds the few things I love. There's a chair by the window. I sit there with my tea listening to birdsong. The world feels vast again. Because I no longer revolve around anyone. And to you, whoever you are, wherever you're listening from, I want to say this. It's never too late. Whether you're 55, 65, or 75, you don't have to prove you're worthy of love. You are worthy. Worthy of peace. Of dignity. Of a life that belongs to you. You're not a bad mother. You're not a bad wife. You're not a bad daughter-in-law. You're just finally done playing the role of the all-sacrificing, boundaryless caretaker. When you stop being hijacked by obligation, when you start saying no, that's not you being selfish. That's you waking up. We were taught to endure. To compromise. To always be the one who bends. But let me tell you this. Sometimes the most reasonable thing you can do is to put yourself first. So if life's got you gasping for air, if you're standing at a crossroads unsure of what's next, so look inward. Ask yourself, is this the life I want? And if the answer is no, change direction. Just like I did. Ex-wife. Ex-daughter-in-law. Ex-people pleaser. No. Just me. And that's the title I'm proudest to wear.